All right, so these sources, you've got me looking at race and art through this whole metamodernism thing. It's pretty fascinating stuff. We've got notes, we've got a podcast episode, even some film analysis to dig into. And we're going to see if metamodernism can really give us a fresh perspective on race in the 21st century. No stuffy lectures, though, I promise.
Well, the first thing that struck me was how the source material just dives right into the concept of race, head on. You know, it's not shying away from the complexities at all.
Yeah, it's definitely not just skin deep.
No, not at all. This 21st century understanding of race, it's about recognizing how much weight it carries in shaping social standing and economic opportunities, even in things like access to education. It's how those unfortunate historical and societal constructs are still impacting people's lives today.
That's a heavy reality check right from the start. Okay, so how does this metamodernism come into play? I'll be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on that term myself.
Think of it like a bridge. You've got the cynicism of postmodernism on one side and the idealism of modernism on the other. The source material describes it as like a cultural wave. It acknowledges the complexities and skepticism of the postmodern world, but it's trying to move beyond just deconstruction.
So instead of just tearing everything down, it's about finding meaning and connection, even amidst all the chaos.
Exactly. And one of the key takeaways here is that metamodernism is really emphasizing the integration of multiple perspectives. It's understanding that there's no one right answer or one single narrative that captures the whole truth, especially when we're talking about something as multifaceted as race.
I like that it's like we're being challenged to step outside our own limited viewpoints, to see the world through a wider lens.
Yeah, precisely. The source material uses this great analogy. Imagine trying to understand a sculpture, but you're only looking at it from one angle. You miss the depth, the intricacies, the full picture. That's what happens when we limit ourselves to a single narrative about race.
Okay, that's a powerful image. It makes me think about some of the films mentioned in the source material, like Black Panther.
Oh yeah, Black Panther is a brilliant example of metamodernism in action. It doesn't shy away from complex themes like identity, colonialism, and responsibility. But what's remarkable is how it presents this vibrant and nuanced portrayal of African culture. It challenges so many stereotypical representations we've seen in the past.
It's not just about representation, though. The source material uses this term depthiness. I'm curious about how that plays into all of this.
Depthiness in this context is about recognizing the layers within ourselves and others. It's understanding that our identities aren't defined by just one label or experience. It's about embracing the full spectrum of who we are and who others are, going beyond those surface-level assumptions.
So it's another way of looking at integrating those multiple perspectives we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. The source material actually quotes bell hooks here. To understand race, we must look beyond the superficial. Depthiness is about digging deeper for understanding, individually and collectively.
I'm starting to see how these pieces all fit together. It's like we're building a framework for a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of race. Now, the source material also contrasts films like The Birth of a Nation, which unfortunately perpetuated those racist stereotypes, and then Within Our Gates, which directly challenged them. It's like two sides of the same coin just a few years apart.
Yeah, that contrast really highlights the struggle for authentic representation and how important it is to dismantle those harmful narratives. Within Our Gates was directed by Oscar McCoe, a pioneering Black filmmaker. It was actually a direct response to the racist propaganda of The Birth of a Nation.
Oh.
It reminds us that even in the face of oppression, art can be a tool for resistance and truth-telling.
It makes you think about how progress isn't always linear. It's more of this constant push and pull between different forces. Speaking of seeing things from multiple angles, the source material brings up this concept of intersectionality. It can sound like a buzzword, but it seems crucial here.
Intersectionality is about recognizing that our experiences are shaped by more than just race. It's gender, class, sexual orientation, but all these things. It's about how these identities intersect and influence each other, creating a unique lived experience for every individual.
So it's about understanding the whole person, not just reducing them to one aspect of their identity.
Exactly. The source material uses the example of a Black woman's experience, being different from a Black man's experience, and both being different from a white woman's experience. It's recognizing that even within racial groups, there are layers of privilege and disadvantage based on these intersecting identities.
Okay, so we're painting a pretty complex picture here. Metamodernism, depthiness, intersectionality, they're all connected in this effort to reimagine how we understand race in the 21st century.
It's about moving beyond those simplistic binary ways of thinking, embracing the beautiful complexity of human experience, and realizing this is an ongoing journey, not a destination. We're constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning as we engage with these multifaceted concepts. One example that really stood out to me was the film Moonlight. It beautifully captures the complexities of identity, especially for a young black man grappling with his sexuality and trying to find his place in the world.
Oh, Moonlight. Yeah, a visually stunning film. But it really gets under your skin.
Yeah.
It stays with you. What makes it metamodern, in your view?
Well, think about how it tackles these huge universal themes. Love lost, the search for belonging. But it does it through this very specific, deeply personal lens. It doesn't give you easy answers or neat resolutions. It embraces ambiguity and makes you confront the messiness of life, which I think is a real hallmark of metamodernism.
You're right. And it avoids those stereotypical tropes you often see in coming-of-age stories. There's no single hero's journey here. It's about the nuances of human experience, those small moments that build into something really profound.
And speaking of nuance, the source material also points to Get Out as a powerful example of metamodern social commentary. It uses the horror genre to expose the insidious nature of racism. Not just the overt kind, but the subtle, insidious forms that often go unchecked.
It's like it holds up a mirror to society, makes us confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world we live in.
Exactly. And it does it in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking, which I think is key. Metamodern art doesn't shy away from tough conversations, but it understands the power of storytelling to really engage an audience.
Okay, so we got film, but the source material also mentions some literary examples. How does metamodernism play out in literature?
One that comes to mind is Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad. It takes this historical event and reimagines it as speculative fiction, creating this incredibly powerful allegory for the legacy of slavery and racism in America.
That book was so visceral and haunting. It really challenged how I understood history and forced me to confront the weight of that legacy.
And that's what's so brilliant about it. It doesn't just recount historical facts. It immerses you in the emotional reality of those experiences. It makes it impossible to turn away from the truth.
Right. It weaves together history, fantasy, personal narrative. It creates a much richer understanding of the complexities of race in America.
The source material makes a good point. Metamodern literature, like The Underground Railroad, doesn't offer easy solutions or happy endings. It's about grappling with the messiness, the ambiguity, the struggles that continue to shape our world. How about this? If metamodernism gives us this framework for reimagining race, what other areas of our lives could benefit from this approach? Where else do we get stuck in rigid categories and binary thinking? Or in those outdated narratives that limit our understanding and potential?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's a challenge to apply this lens of depthiness, intersectionality, and narrative reconstruction to other areas. Everything from politics and religion to gender and the environment. It really makes you realize how powerful these metamodern tools can be for navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
It also reminds us that this is an ongoing process, a journey of discovery and growth. It needs constant engagement, critical thinking, and a willingness to embrace that in-between space where uncertainty and possibility collide.
So, to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into reimagining race through a metamodern lens. We encourage you to check out the source material for yourself, delve deeper into these ideas, and keep challenging yourselves to see the world through a more nuanced and expansive lens. Keep those conversations going, keep asking those tough questions, and keep striving for a more just and equitable world for all.